Hi, and welcome to the podcast with purpose in this world. Welcome to My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And this is Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. I'm a person that was born and raised in Puerto Rico or Puerto Rican, but now today residing in Florida in the United States. I'm a person that was diagnosed what is called autism or autism spectrum disorder at age 3. And as a person with autism, I went through different challenges that are common with other people on the spectrum, but also I went through challenges that may not be common with people with autism, such as, I went through challenges of social communication, struggles in making and building friendships, being misunderstood. I went through social rejection, bullying, especially in school, and anxiety, depression, and many others. But despite the challenges, I was able to develop different hobbies like arts, video games, Star Wars, travels, and many others. I was able to graduate with my bachelor's degree in business. I was able to get a job and be able to get employment in the areas of customer service, sales, and management. Even doing work on television as well. I was able to become a writer and write my own book called An Autism Unscripted Life. I'll be able to become a motivational public speaker and life coach. And most important of all, I have become an advocate or an ambassador for the autism community. My role as an ambassador for the autism community or an advocate is to be able to raise awareness and acceptance in terms of the challenges that people with autism and their families face, and to educate society about the purpose that each person with autism have in this world. In this podcast, we're going to talk about topics related to autism, but not only that, we're going to talk about topics related to mental health, other disabilities. We're going to talk about stories, inspirational stories. We're going to talk about other topics that impact community and many others. So without further ado, I want to welcome you officially to my podcast, My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. Today is an historic day in my life. I'm launching a project that I've thought about, dreaming about for some time. But there was always an excuse as to why it hasn't happened already. I mentioned reasons, saying, I didn't have the programs or the tools. I didn't have the studio. I didn't have the guests. I didn't have the topics or the experience to have my own podcast. Or I didn't have the time. And I was, not, thinking and overthinking in terms of how to start a podcast. Getting overwhelmed and not doing barely anything. But today, that all changes. Today, April the 2nd, 2022, an important day in my life, as I'm going to mention in a little bit, is the official start date of my podcast, My Time, with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And who is Tony Hernandez Pumarejo? Me. And who is this guy? Who is Tony Hernandez Pumarejo? I never heard about him, what he does, what projects does he do in this world. Why should I listen to him? Well, I'm going to give you a couple reasons, why you should take an interest in my program, and then you decide, whether you want to continue listening or not. Hey, it's all about free choice. I present the product to all of you, to this great audience that is listening right now. And each of you can decide whether to continue listening to me, watch me, or not. But I greatly appreciate if you're listening to me right now, you're watching me right now. I greatly appreciate you doing it. You could be doing different things, but to take time from your busy schedule, because all of us are busy in this world of high demand and fast-paced environment, to take time to take a listen to my podcast is the most valuable thing that I can have. And I want to make sure that I take that into consideration, and I want to make your time worthwhile. So let us begin. So who is Tony Hernandez Pumarejo? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. Tony Hernandez Pumarejo, my full name is Antonio Gabriel Hernandez Pumarejo. I was born and raised in the island of Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a small island in the Caribbean, a U.S. territory, the territory of the United States. But it's an island with a lot of history and a lot of heart. It's an island that has been crucial and has had a great impact in our world through different areas of culture, arts, entertainment, science, different projects in the community space. Puerto Ricans have had a great impact in our world, and it's a unique place. I was born in the city of Bayamon, which is a small town in Puerto Rico. Not small town. My apologies. A part of the metro area next to San Juan, which is the capital. And my childhood was, you know, I had an interesting beginning because there were difficulties when my mom gave me birth. I don't know what is the name of that term right now, but it had difficulties. And my life has been an interesting roller coaster, has been an interesting story, starting in my childhood. Why did I mention that? As you see, I went through different things. I went through a lot of struggles. Early in my, or my early years, I was having a lot of issues, struggles, communication. There were a lot of things that my parents and my family were seeing that were not normal, and it led to serious concerns with my parents. So as a result, my parents were trying to figure it out what was wrong with me back then, and they received conflicting answers, from professionals, medical professionals, and many other people. Sometimes even insults. For example, my mom, they told her one time that I was a retard, and that hurt. But we all led to this, which is they told I was diagnosed with a condition called autism at age 3. I was born in 1990. 3 years later, I'm officially diagnosed autism back then. Not autism level 1, level 2, just autism. Because back then, there was not a lot of information of or knowledge of autism as it is today. And since that time, since that moment, it made an impact, and autism became part of my life, and it is part of it, my life all the way till today, as you will see. Child early diagnosed, I went through challenges that are common with other people in the autism spectrum. Communication challenges, for example, I was nonverbal until age 4, and you may be in shock as to, wow, this guy was nonverbal until age 4, and he's doing a podcast in communication. Sometimes people may see the end result, and they may see that there's nothing wrong with me, but they don't know my full story, or they're not with me the whole time, as you will see through my story. So I was nonverbal to age 4. I went through challenges of struggling, behavior challenges, struggling to understand the outside world, struggles in making friends and making connections with other people, uh, super high anxiety, social anxiety, and it was one challenge after another. As a result of this, my parents put me through different types of therapy, like behavior therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, to be able to improve my skills and experience for the purpose to potentially have a better life. And it was a struggle. It was a process. It was very difficult years. being not be able to be understood by others, especially in school, um, be able to be rejected by others in school, other students, other kids, and going through bullying and many other challenges. But they were not that bad in the years following pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and the first grade. Luckily I had different hobbies like video games, arts. I used to play Super Mario, Star Wars, and many other things. I became a Star Wars fan when I was 7 years old, and those for me were not only hobbies, but they were a different world. That's like going to a different world for me. So that helped me help deal with all of the challenges I was going through. I had challenges with my siblings, my parents also, and it was very difficult years. Then it became more difficult. My mom had to leave because of a disease called multiple sclerosis. And this happened around when I was 9, 10 years old. And we had to like transition, me and my older siblings to move with our dad. And it was a very tough period of dealing with all this change all of a sudden. Not to mention the fact that dealing with the challenges that I was dealing with in school. I had success in trying to build friendships through my common hobbies, video games, and others. But I've always had struggles in keeping long-time friendships. It was very difficult, not to mention dealing with people that were bullying me very often. And the challenges began, continue to increase, and increase until, in high school, middle school, high school, it got worse. But at the same time that I was going through all these challenges, my skills were, they were improving. I took speech therapy for 4 years, and I got to a level in which I was able to, um, sorry, to be able to communicate normally or as close to normal with other people. It got to a point in which my diagnosis got changed to Asperger syndrome, which today, is considered like high functioning autism here in the United States, or level 1 autism, but it's considered Asperger in other parts of the world still, which is one of the topics I'll be talking about during my podcast. And basically, I was in special ed for a couple years, but then they took me off of the special ed when I was in the third grade. I mean, my apologies, the second grade. And because they saw that I had made enough improvements. But still, I was dealing with the area of social rejection, social communication with others, building friendships, which has been the most difficult thing that I ever dealt with in my life. So it's because of that my life has been like a roller coaster, it's ups and downs, a lot of challenges, getting hit from different circumstances of life. And as we got into middle school, it became more challenging. I was being attacked. I was being bullied. I was receiving insults, homosexual insults. Called me I was homosexual, that I wanted to kill people, that I was a monster. Me receiving those comments hurt. And it led me to a severe clinical depression, not to mention the fact the challenges in my household. Because, living with my dad and my siblings was a very tough period. Very tough period. And I felt that I didn't have the support that I wish I would have had back then. Not to mention that I didn't have support. I had support. My dad, they did the best we could. My mom did the best they could. They did everything to be able to help me. But it was a very challenging period. A lot of changes, struggles. They did so many things. So overall, I went through so many challenges. From childbirth all the way to adulthood, getting to adulthood, age 18. But despite those challenges, I was able to not give up, continue to fight, and be able to graduate from high school with a 3.9 GPA. And that's been the story so far, perseverance. But it's always been challenges, and always I'm trying to find a place for myself in this world. That's always been what I really wanted to do. So overall, I graduated from high school, went to college. Good thing I didn't have to deal with bullying, but I still had struggles with making friendships. And it was a very difficult time indeed. And sometimes, I felt like I was out of this world, that no matter what I did to build friendships and do everything, I was always having a struggle, always. And it led to one team to another. It's sad, it was very tough. But I went to my first year, 2 years of college. I struggled not only with making friends, but also be able with my grades. I was struggling in the area that I chose. Not to mention dealing with depression and rejection, the difficulties and situations within my family. It was so many things. It got to a point which I had no choice but to leave college back in 2012 and move to Florida, where my mom was living and to start again my life. Then, being out of college, I was criticized. People thought that I was making a mistake, dropping out of college. I was not dropping out. That I was going to be a failure. That I was not going to reach I was not going to achieve anything. Even from people that I thought that were friends, close friends, they said the same thing. But I looked at that moment when I moved to Florida as an opportunity to start again. And that's what I did. I was able to get a job in an area that, according to most society, is not recommended for a person on the autism spectrum, which is social communication, my apologies, customer service and sales. And I work in the retail environment. The retail environment is fast-paced, multitasking, very stressful environment. I thought I was not going to survive, but I was able to do so. Through hard work and sacrifice, I was able to overcome the challenges and be able to do my job in retail. And I was able to learn and gain from that experience, which helped me to have years of experience in customer service, sales, and even become a manager. A person who's considered autistic or a person on the spectrum, I was not supposed to be in this position. Even Dr. Temple Grandin, if you don't know who Dr. Temple Grandin is she's one of the most famous people that is on the autism spectrum, autistic, and one of the first that revealed her diagnosis, in the world. And to be able to work this job was something tremendous. But the key here was to not give up and to persevere, which was the most important thing of them all. So basically, was able to work, dealing with challenges of depression. It was a very tough time, and I was still very frustrated in terms of why no matter what I do, I still keep failing. I still keep failing in making friendships. But I didn't give up, and I realized at one point this I can no longer blame autism. One thing curious about autism is I didn't know I had autism until I was age 14 or a teenager at the time. I was wondering why they didn't tell me about this, but I was wondering right now, maybe if they would have told me early, maybe what difference would have made. So basically, I was blaming everybody. I was blaming everything for my failures. But it got to a point in which I had to realize that I can no longer blame the circumstances for blame everybody. It's not helping me. I had to take full responsibility and fight to achieve my dreams, achieve a better life. So I went back to school, went back to college, was able to graduate with my bachelor's degree in business and information management, which is, because I wanted to become, and still in the process of having my own business, want to achieve financial freedom as part of my main goals of life. And and I was able to learn different, experience and skills. So in my second time in college, like sales, accounting, marketing, and many other classes, including public speaking. So it was a great experience going back to college, graduating with my bachelor's degree. And one important thing happened on that event was that I was recognized as a person on the autism spectrum graduating from college by the president of the college at the time. And it was a unique experience. And that led to the confirmation of what has been and what is my mission in this world, which is to help people that are on the autism spectrum to achieve a better life, to help them, not to for help them. I don't want to see them go through the same things that I went through, and that's what help me to continue pushing and pushing and fight. I became start working for the autism community in 2013, doing community work with different organizations and helping autism families around with the community, and then it got expanded throughout the world. And that became my life mission, and it is my life mission to this very day. Um, so basically, graduated from college, continued to work full time, and I was able to accomplish different things that I thought I was never going to accomplish. I was able to write my first and only book so far, which is called An Autism Unscripted Life, and also in Spanish, Una Vida Autista Sin Libreto, which talks about my life on the spectrum from childhood to adulthood. Original reason why I wrote the book was because just in the case of something happened to me and I died or anything, I wanted to leave a legacy and leave and tell everybody to learn about my story. None of that is sympathy, but to be able to educate more of what it is living on the spectrum. Again, I'm only one story because there's different people that are on the autism spectrum, more different challenges. And autism, you cannot define autism by just seeing one person. Each person in the autism spectrum is different. So basically, that's what happened, and that became my confirmation of my mission. So overall, I was able to graduate, get my book. I became a speaker, and then later on that I was interviewed on television because of my books in Puerto Rico, in the main channels of Puerto Rico. And then later on, I was offered my own TV segment to talk about autism, and which I did for 2 years. And just imagine looking back and reflect what I have achieved to work, in realizing what I came from to getting to this point. After rejections, after challenges, after struggles, after getting, hits from life, I was able to fight. I was still here and be able to help others achieve a better life. So today, I do work in media. I do work as an autism advocate. I work and I live autism 24/7, and that's my mission. And that's what I'm going to talk about. One, not the only thing. One of the main things about this podcast. We're going to talk about different topics about autism, some even controversial topics, which I want to talk about. We're going to bring people from the community and educate and continue my mission through this podcast. But my podcast is not going to only be autism. I fought for other causes like mental health, community, and many others. I want to have a space in this podcast to have a debate, to share ideas, to not censor, not be politically correct, to be very straight. And this is going to be a podcast for that. There are going to be times in which I'll say things in which you're not going to agree with, and that's completely fine. And I don't expect you to agree with me, or vice versa. You may agree with me. So I want to overall, and getting to the point, create a space in which to have an open mind, to have a community. That's what I want to do. I don't want censoring, or because we're living the greatest, most no, well, maybe we're living the most difficult time, but perhaps the greatest times in this world. As crazy as it may sound, but we're living in the most difficult and most unique and most historic, changing life, times of in our world. So many things that happen in our world with COVID, the wars, the change of culture, many things. We're living through the greatest changes, and I think I would like to talk about those topics as well, and have an open forum because there's censorship in social media today. There's no tolerance with the differences of opinion, and it's very sad. We need to go beyond our differences and work on the things that unite us to create a better world. That's what we all want. So we're going to talk about those topics: community, motivation, to create a purpose-driven podcast, which is my description, and to create an open forum, an open space for all. I don't care, regardless of your background, each person, you're listening, have a purpose in this world. No matter what others tell you, you have a purpose. And we need to come together to face the challenges that we face in our world. So overall, that's going to be my podcast. I talk a little bit about myself. Um, the podcast maybe, sometimes maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour. The most important thing is the quality. Um, this is my first time doing this. So any questions, any suggestions, any comments, please let me know. This is a work in progress in building this podcast. This is going to be a bilingual podcast, both episodes in English and Spanish. I don't know if there's not a lot of podcasts out there that are bilingual, but I'm going to do the best I can to be able to bring the best content in both languages. As again, any questions that you have, please let me know. And also follow me on social media. As I put in here on the, if you're watching, I put it in there. I'm putting my social media, my webpage. You can follow on social media. I'm Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And also my website, www.tonyhernandezpumarejo.com. Those are my social media. And also, if you want a copy of my book, An Autism A Scripted Life, you can go ahead and get it in Amazon and also other platforms as well. So overall, in conclusion, I really appreciate if you're here still. I really appreciate you being here, listening, or seeing me to do this podcast. I'm doing the best I can. I'll be learning. All of us will be learning. As I said, this is a work in progress. So I hope that, if you can take something from each episode that can make your life better or make our world, our community better, that I have done my job. So again, and this is it for the first episode of My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. Always stay tuned to my social media, my webpage, and stay tuned to my podcast. And I'll see you next time. So again, wait a minute. Before I go, my apologies. This is an interesting, reason why this episode is premiering today, April 2nd, 2022. Today is World Autism Day. Today is considered the International Day of Autism, World Autism Awareness, Autism Acceptance. For me, it's Autism Day. Originally, this podcast was going to be released, in early January 3rd, but because I was going through a burnout phase and I was taking time off, it got delayed. I think it's no accident that I'm releasing this on April the 2nd. I believe it's part of my mission, now as an ambassador for autism, to be able to help others. So I wish everybody, let's continue to raise, especially for this month, let's not only, mention autism, let's find ways to be able to help each individual in the autism spectrum to achieve a better life and help their families and communities as well. So again, thank you so much for being with me here in the first episode, and congratulations for listening to me. And and I'm looking forward to building this, this connection with all of you. So thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day, afternoon, or good evening. Bye bye. And this is it for another episode of My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. I hope you like it. So if you want to learn a little bit more information in terms of the work that I do, please subscribe to my social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube under my name, Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. You can also follow my website, www.tonyhernandezpumarejo.com. And if you're interested in getting a copy of my book, An Autism Unscripted Life, you can purchase it from Amazon or any other platform, including my own, my website. So I hope you liked this episode of My Time with Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. And until next time we meet, thank you and have a wonderful day. Blessings.